I know nobody will go through it, my vision, so I'ma go hard until the end. A show weak, rappers make me feel like I'm an alien. The way my mind whoops and bends.
Hey, you don't mess with me and my crew. We'll leave you feeling like you're the Olympics or the Tokyo Zoo. You'll jump around so much you get crisscross. And my crew is never whack because we stand strong. And we made a pact when I
I know nobody will go through with my vision, so I'ma go hard until the end. A show weak, rappers make me feel like I'm an alien. The way my mind whoops and bends.
Hey, you don't mess with me and my crew. We'll leave you feeling like you're the Olympics or the Tokyo Zoo. You'll jump around so much you get crisscross. And my crew is never whack because we stand strong. And we made a pact when I drop
Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to a much-awaited monthly session. On this one, we will have our usual upcoming projects presentation, and we will have two presentations by our internal projects, and maybe a little surprise. So, are you guys ready? Paulo.
Yes. If I may, wait. The screen sharing is disabled. I need someone to, please. Who is those?
Give me a second. I don't know how to zoom.
Okay, yeah, it's done. So if everyone can see, oops, got a little sneak peek. So yeah, once again, we're in a master session, and I'm here to give you a sneak peek at what we have in store for in terms of our activities, and the jams that we are proposing for you to participate in the context of our group with people from here to get to know them, to improve your skills, and to have fun. We'll be talking about two jams and the return of one of our internal events this month. So first off, there will be the O2A to Visual Novel Jam. It will run from April 7th to April 22nd, and this edition will have a focus on LGBT stories. Like I said, it's a visual novel jam, so your goal is to make a game where the focal point is the story, and where you can explore a multitude of characters and the relationship between them. And this one is interesting because it enters a small challenge for you to have more fun and add more diversity to your project, which is that you only use one of each asset. For example, in some games you could use as part of the gameplay maybe more multiple enemies of the same time, or maybe multiple items that you could have in your inventory. And although that wouldn't really apply to the visual novel style of game, you can still try to have this challenge applied. For example, you could only use one word of each type, or of each. Just every word would need to be different. That would be maybe way too hard, but who knows? Maybe you'll enjoy the challenge, and that's why we are sharing this jam with you. And after that, we have the level 99 game jam, which will go from April 14th to April 24th. This one is a little bit bigger. It has a total of a $100,000 prize pool. And it also has the opportunity that for you to eventually, if you are ranked high enough, to go to Singapore and pitch your game. Well, by pitching your game, you also open the possibility of entering it into production and selling it. So it's a quite big game jam, and the stakes are high. But we thought that this is something that a lot of you might enjoy. And yes, this is also a worldwide jam, so anyone from anywhere can participate. So yeah, after that, we have the return of our Coffee and Games event. This will be the second edition. First edition was last year around this time as well. It will run from April 28th to April 6th to May 6th. And it will be a jam where we're gonna group you into teams and have multiple. We'll give you a theme, and like any other jam, you're gonna build a game around the theme, and then you'll be ranked in multiple categories such as sound design, art, um, along others that are still being worked on. Um, the star point of this event is that at the end of the event, on the last couple of days, we're gonna have a stream where we will be talking with guests that work on our partners, such as on the game companies that are our partners, and they will be live on stream talking about game design, sharing a lot of their expertise, and also playing the games that hopefully the ones that are being done in the jam, but also other games that have been done in GDT and as part of our internal projects. So it's a fun way to interact with our partners and to have professional feedback directly from developers that have worked for years in the game industry and are certainly very knowledgeable in game design, and that we can always learn a lot from them. So it's a different experience and one that we liked to provide the first time around, and we want to do it again. So that's when it will happen, from April 28th to May 6th, and the stream will probably be on May 5th or May 6th. We will give you more details as the time approaches, but we want you to keep this in mind because we're very excited about it. So yes, that's all the activities we're planning for this month. So just to recap, you have the Visual Novel Jam starting on April 7th, then the Level 99 Game Jam starting on April 14th, and finally at the end of the month, the Coffee and Games Jam hosted by us, starting on April 28th. So yeah, we're gonna be posting these jams for you to react and show you interest in later. So make sure to keep an eye out for that, and we will also be talking with you about it. If you have any jams that you'd like to participate, not for this month, but for the next one, so they can be announced in advance, you're free to send it to any of us in the executive production team, myself included, and we will keep them in mind. And any doubts that you have about participation, about how game jams work, especially for a newer member or a newbie, feel free to reach out as well, and we will be happy to help. And yes, thank you. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Paulo. As usual, we have a great activity plan with some interesting jams ahead and an interesting event happening. So, to start our presentations for today, first up we have our wheel team. Are you guys ready?
Of course, always. Let me just see who can share our presentation. Dio, can you share it?
Let me just figure out how Zoom works. It's the PDF, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so can I full screen this? Oh, not managing to full screen. So either someone else share it, or you're going to see a bit of the next slide on the bottom of it.
If you press Control Enter, it doesn't full screen.
Nope.
I have an option on my browser, but I'm going to step out in the middle of the presentation, so I don't know if I'm the best person to share it.
The option on my browser cuts the presentation because of the format.
That's fine.
Right.
All right, so I'm just going to. Okay, this is good enough. All right, everyone can see.
Okay, so greetings. I'm André Antunes, and as you have already heard here, Maria and Diogo, we are part of the project called Our Wheel, and we are going to talk a bit about it today. It is one of our internal projects here on GDT, and it's about an adventure into the Nordic myths. You can change the slide. This game is an adventure RPG with turn-based combat, heavily focused on the narrative and the player's choices that can change drastically the story and the ending of the adventure. So it basically follows a non-linear storyline. It has a 2D hand-drawn visual, very inspired in the comics of the 80s and 90s, an art style that Marianne is going to talk a bit more in detail. This game was born out of a game jam, the Winter Visual Novel Jam, that occurred last December, 2 years ago. We made a game called Jotunheim Part 1. It was a visual novel only, And since we didn't manage to conclude the story and we really liked the narrative and the characters, we created this project and we decided to continue development in a different way. In this case, more turned to the turn-based combats and the adventure RPG. You can change now. The world that our game takes place is called Jotunheim, and it's a land unknown to mankind, deep embedded in Nordic mythos, very mysterious and ominous, with creatures humans only heard in tales and legends. The characters, as the player itself, will be in a new world where clearly there are forces at play, much more powerful, with intentions that cannot be comprehended. Things that will make the player and the characters question what is real and what is not, with creatures and structures that dwarf anything mankind has built. Here, the will, in this case, that's the reason for our title. The will and determination and cunning of the player and characters will be tested at every turn. You can change. The narrative starts when a group of warriors arrives to this land, this mysterious land. Their village is cursed by a disease that has no cure, at least that they don't know of, and that they suspect to be of divine making, this curse. Yeah, I'm sorry. So basically the player takes control of Astrid, the chief's daughter, which is the one in the middle. And as she leads this party that is clearly more experienced than her, and it will be her task to make the right choices, earn the respect of her colleagues, and find the cure, and mostly, of course, survive the dangers that lurk this ancient land. You can change. Since the narrative is the main focus of our game, its design was, of course, of the utmost importance. Our narrative plays heavy on mystery and fear of the unknown. The information is shared bit by bit with certain cues, always leaving questions unanswered and space for the player to wonder and to create his own hypothesis. An important factor of the game and story are the player choices. A game can have really different outcomes depending on the player's choices, and we wanted to create choices that weren't so black and white, that the answers were not right and wrong. So there is always a gray line that separates every choice that the player makes. And as for the writing, there are three main factors. These ones you can see on screen that influence the story and influence the player's choices. And we want him to keep always in mind these three concepts. First of all, his companions that he brings with him, that he wants to get to know a bit better and wants to gain their respect, because they can be as dangerous as they can be friends. The other main factor is the mythos about this land, about the gods, and about everything that the player sees and is not sure that is true or is just a fantasy in his mind, in Hasfield's mind in this case. And we wanted to keep that mystery always in mind, and everything else about this land. And the last concept, of course, is the quest that binds everything together and gives motivation for the player and the characters to keep on striding in this land and trying to find this cure that supposedly is in this land.
Okay, hello everyone. Now for the reference, as Andrea have said, we take a lot of inspiration from Norse mythology and from these three games over here, Clash of Gods, Banner Saga, and Battle Chasers. In the art department or even in the gameplay department, we take a lot of inspiration. Can you change the slide? Yeah, okay. We have this idea of the neo world. So everything is very big. So it makes a human feel small. Everything's very gloomy and dark. A big presence of clouds. It's always cloudy. You don't see where you're going, so you feel a little bit lost. And as the game progresses, these things might change. If you're feeling more hopeful, you might see a beam of light. And in contrast with the characters that we have, that they are all very colorful, so you can easily identify each one of them. So it creates this opposition with the colorful characters and the gloomy background. Next. Okay. So since this game started as a visual novel, we do take a lot of detail on making our art. We have a big art team, and we like this very fine detail drawing, not a lot of shading. And in the background, it's also very photorealistic, but still has a component of drawing, as you can see over here. Can you change? Since I said we have a big team and we have people specializing in each department, so everyone can give a little bit of their art style, but in the same way keep it cohesive. So we have Tiago. He did our characters. He's doing the concept of the characters, as you see over there on the bottom. And at the end, you'll see concepts for creatures that will show enemies that are being done by our colleague Afonso. For the backgrounds, it's a little bit more difficult. We had to separate it by steps. So we start with the initial concept of what we want, how we visualize things, and then I'm in charge of doing the composition and grayscale values, and then we have someone else on the team. Right now it's Maria that is painting our background. Something else that we also want to have in our game to give it a little bit more depth into the story, besides already being very narrative focused, but we want to give this extra touch that is animation. So you'd have cutscenes of very important scenes of the story, and this is some of the panels made by our colleague Joanna.
All right, so I'm going to talk a bit about the gameplay now. And at its core, our game is basically alternation between narrative and combat sequences. The narrative scenes are in the style of a visual novel that you've seen a bit ago, and combat encounters are in a turn-based RPG sort of way that we'll talk about more later. As for the campfires, they are this place where the characters can recover from their travels. So here the player can level up, the player can check the bestiary, they can talk with the other team members, and it's at this point that the game saves the progress. So if you die, if you lose a combat at a later point in time, you go back to the previous campfire you rested at. As for the combat itself, it's a turn-based RPG. It's a 3 versus 3 affair, so you've got 3 of your party versus 3 enemies. Sometimes the enemies can come in waves. There are 3 types of actions that player characters can take. There's the basic attack, which is just raw damage, nothing special to it. There are the abilities, special abilities, which usually have some sort of effect and are usually more powerful, but they do also cost will, which is basically our own take on the concept of mana. And finally, there are ultimate abilities, and for that there's an entire charge bar that needs to be filled so you can use an ultimate ability, which is just an all-out attack. Multiple people of your party just go on the attack and do something very, very strong. So the player can also switch characters. You are not bound to have the same characters throughout a single combat encounter. The turn order is dynamic, so if you get it with something that lowers your speed, the order in which the characters play on a given turn changes. This is because we have several types of damage and stats effects in our game. So we have damage that normal damage. We have damage that ignores armor. We have damage that is dealt precisely to armor. We have some abilities that reduce will, and we also have a lot of status effects, stuff that is permanently or during some turns attached to other characters, like stuns, like bleeding effects, stats changes like speed up, speed down, strength up, strength down. That was my department. I could be here the whole day talking about it. The main unique thing about our system is the weakness wheel, which is that round thingy that you can see there on the right of the screen. And the way this works is each character has a rune, and each enemy has a weakness wheel. And in the weakness wheel, there are 5 runes. Some of them are covered and others are exposed. And if a character hits an enemy which has their rune exposed, they'll deal more damage. This wheel changes during combat. So an enemy that has a certain rune exposed might not have that very same rune exposed in a few turns. So it kind of forces the player to keep that in mind and keeps combat more dynamic. You have to be thinking ahead on how the runes might change, so you can bring out a character that will be strong against that. It gives us an excuse to have the player change characters more often during combat. So in terms of progression, we want the game to start with little complexity, and we introduce more complex concepts as the player progresses, so that it's a little bit easier to ease into our combat system. Each character has 2 roles. So Astrid, for example, our main character, is both a tank and a support, and can unlock abilities from both of those types of play. To upgrade and unlock abilities, each combat gives points, and you can use those points to unlock and upgrade abilities. So in terms of connecting the narrative to the combat, the first point is that story unlocks abilities. There are some milestones at which you unlock new ultimate abilities, so you can use stronger attacks. Points that you gain in combat are equally shared across characters, so all characters will have the same amount of points at any given time, because we don't want the player to feel, okay, I use these characters a lot, so they are much stronger than the others, so the others just get, neglect. That we wanted to avoid that. And finally, the concept of will, our mana pools, they are relationship dependent. So if the player has a better relationship with a character, that character will enter combat with more will. Now, for this final part of talking about our how we manage our project, that was that is Andrea's business, but he unfortunately had to leave. He did leave us with a video recording that I'm going to play now. And wait, so just need a moment to share. Can all see? All right, so going to play now.
We can't hear the audio.
Sorry?
We can't hear the video.
That's not good. This is the part where it would be very useful if I knew how to use them. Do you know how to share audio? That's great.
When you share the screen, you have an option on the bottom left.
Oh, okay. I see it. All right.
Well, hello.
Can you read it now?
I'm going to talk a bit about the
Yes, I can.
management and production parts of our game. This is our team and the way we are divided. We have a team of 9 people, with 4 on the programming side and 5 on the art side. Additionally, me and Maria have narrative responsibilities. Inside the division, we all have our specializations, be it programming on the UI or the narrative, or in the arts department, being responsible for the backgrounds or the characters. As some of you know, working for a project is quite different than working for a jam. A project is much more ambitious, there is much more content to be made, and the level of detail and professionalism in what we implement is categorically higher. So we are organized in a way that allows for the best productivity and efficiency in order to tackle our objectives. We have weekly meetings, Thursday at night. We meet on Discord and we share our progress and implementation in the weekly tasks we are assigned. We have a project board that has our current, past, and future tasks, so our work is quite organized. However, the main key is above all communication. Everybody goes to the meeting, and everyone gives feedback on the work done, be it programmers on the art side, be it the art side on the design side, whatever. Consequently, we are all open to feedback and apt to make adjustments on what we make. It's another big difference from gems. We here take time to get the best result. This means a bigger amount of concepts to study the best art directions, assets being redone and readjusted after feedback. In sum, there is a lot of iteration to reach our final product. And of course, for we to keep on the right track, we have a couple of monthly deadlines we expect to reach this year. Since the narrative and combat logic on the programming side is almost completed, we are already playtesting the narrative, and we expect to playtest the combats at the end of this month. Uh, we are also aiming to get a Steam page up, if everything goes well, and running, and start showcasing the game in promotional events in a couple of months, namely the events that GameDev Técnico goes to. Finally, we aim to launch a demo and a trailer of our game around August. So, this is our reel, a game about the strength of man's will and the greyish line that separates good and bad decisions, where the old Norse gods and creatures challenge the player to succeed in their quests. And we, right now, we need artists above all, we need you, uh, mainly for the areas of backgrounds, animations, and UI. However, if you are not one of these persons, if you're not an artist with capabilities, you can reach us still, and we can see if you can join the team, uh, depending on your capabilities. We will make a post with more information on the project pitch channel, probably today or tomorrow. And right now, our team will answer the questions about our game.
All right, that's our presentation. And like Andrea said, if anyone has any questions, we are here to answer them.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for your presentation. Congratulations on the game. I remember your first pitch. It was a year ago or a year and a half ago. I think it was a year ago. And you guys have come so far since then. Well, there doesn't seem to be any questions being posted here. So as Andrea said in the video, we'll wait for you to post, to make a post on Discord. And then can people contact anyone from the team, or is there a designated person to ask questions to?
Well, preferably ask Andrea. He's the project leader and is the one who knows, about the whole width of the project.
Okay, so there you go. You can ask Andrea about any questions you might have about joining our Wheel project. So thank you very much again for the presentation. And up next, we have the Sunken pitch. Are you guys ready?
I am. Hi, it's me again.
Oh, Hi.
So, unfortunately, we are a team of 3 right now, and I was the only one who was able to make it. We did record ahead of time a video so that you could, meet the whole team and not just me. And I'll be showing it now. If you give me just a second to share the screen one more time. All right, and can see it's good? Awesome. So, all right, going to play it. Hi everyone, I'm here to pitch Sunken, a new internal project we're developing here at GameDev Técnico. So the big idea for this project is basically to make a roguelite game. We made one for a GM in November, and it had some production issues along the way, but we did find out that developing roguelites is a very fun process. It's a very fun genre to work on. So we decided, let's keep doing it. As we were no longer constrained by the GM's rules, we decided, let's start from scratch. Let's make this more structured, more planned, and hopefully that will turn out in a better game in the end. One thing that's worth noting is we are still very early in conceptualization, and also we do not have one single artist on our team. So images that we're seeing here are all third-party stuff we found online that we're using as inspiration. And it's also worth mentioning that most of the gameplay concepts are not tested, so they are liable to change as we try stuff out. So, to make sure we're all starting from the same page, I'd like to go over what a roguelike actually is. And at its core, a roguelite is a game that is based on short runs. You start from the same starting point. What you find from there on out is randomized. You might find different enemies, different items, different bosses, who knows. At the end of a given run, no matter if you win or lose, you go back to the start and you can do another and you find different stuff. So we have a list here of things we'd like to have in our roguelike game. The first and foremost is to have multiple playable characters. These heavily influenced by Slay the Spire. Having different characters with different styles creates some variety that can be quite fun for the player, including like finding your favorite character to play as. And it also gives more variety in terms of joining the starting point, the playable character you are playing as with the items you find along the run. Then we'd like to have a character-driven story. We have multiple playable characters. Let's try to write a story with them. If anything, Hades has proven that it's possible to write a good story in a roguelite framework, so let's try to do something like that. In terms of gameplay, we'd like to have it be in an isometric 2D perspective. This is not tested at all, so it might change if we don't see that it just doesn't work with the type of gameplay we're aiming for, but so far it's one of our goals. If you don't know what an isometric game is, it's basically one that uses an orthogonal projection, and it's usually at a 45-degree from the screen, so it looks like kind of losangular, like those two games in the bottom of the screen. In terms of the map, we'd like it to be randomly generated with several different levels, each level with its own rooms and enemies and events and who knows. And that is more of a question of scope, so we need to see how big our team is and how many work we can output before we actually come to a final decision on what the map is. And of the more moment-to-moment gameplay, the combat, we'd like it for it to be fast-paced and intense. So I'm now going to pass the baton over to someone else to talk a bit more about the details of our game.
So, as of now, we see our game as a twin-stick shooter with a strong emphasis on combat, where each character has a unique attack and a unique set of different abilities, like an ultimate ability and some passive abilities. Each run has some random passive items to keep the run a little bit more unique, more fresh, and to make the game a little bit less repetitive. Talking about the evolution of each character, we want the characters to evolve while progressing through the arc. Moving on to the art style of our game, we don't have one yet. And since one of the issues we are currently facing is that we do not have any artists on our team, one of the first orders of business for the artists that hopefully will be joining us would be determining an art style for our game. So, what is the premise of our game? Imagine an ancient sealed off ruin in the depths of an endless ocean outside time. A long forgotten god trapped within, and people, lost and forlorn, finding themselves without really knowing how, wandering within, at the mercy of a bored deity who sees them as mere toys. Now the question is, will they be able to escape? As I mentioned before, the game is set in subaquatic ruins. However, keep in mind that this is a very magical place, warped for eons by a god trying to entertain itself. So it isn't exactly limited to oceanic environments.
Hello everyone. So, now that we know a bit more about the gameplay and where the story takes place, we would like to develop the main characters a little bit. But who are these characters after all? Humans are problematic creatures. We create problems where problems don't exist, and sometimes we end up getting lost on our problems. We are in the city of the lost ones. Humans got there and now they don't know how to get out of here. They are trapped and they need help. Our team decided to give an increased importance to the narrative of the characters because we believe that in this way the player ends up creating a stronger connection with the characters itself and the gameplay experience it's increased. This connection between the gameplay and the story is very simple. The game is built by 3 stages for every character, and once we pass the first stage with a character, the character will gain a special ability and a piece of the story will be shown to the player, and the same thing happens to the when we pass to the third stage, and this way the character will evolve in personality and in the gameplay experience to the player. So thanks everyone, and now I will pass my word to Rommel.
Now, talking a little bit more about our antagonists. Imagine an impossibly powerful god to whom human life is just meaningless. A creature so mighty that only sees humans as mere toys to play with. This will bring the sense of challenge for the player, and who doesn't like to beat some selfish gods from time to time? So, about the support characters. These are characters that are spread across the ruins, who live and belong there. They interact with the player, usually helping and offering many interactions. Also, they are very useful to lighten up the mood of each run.
Alright, so to finish up, I'd like to talk about the unique challenges that developing this game poses. In terms of narrative design, that's the telling of a story through the iterative format of a roguelite. So how do we tell a story when at the end of the run the game basically resets to the starting point? How do you tell a story with that? In terms of programming, there's the challenge of creating a roguelite game, and that's frankly challenging enough. I don't know if you know games, but they're hard to make. Then there's the art. And in terms of art, there's a unique challenge in having to create assets that work well with procedural content generation. I'm saying this, but I'm no artist, so I don't really know art, but it's different to create a table that you know that's going to be on a handcrafted room in a handmade house than to create a table that's going to appear in the middle of a randomly generated labyrinth, God knows where. And also there's a much more immediate, as in right now or right this second, challenge that is finding an artist, which we do really desperately need at least one, preferably more. I'd like to also introduce the team a bit, who we are and what we do in this project. For my part, I'm the project leader and I'm the writer. I also do programming if needed, but it's low on my priority list. Then there's Jose, who's doing programming and design on the side. And finally, Romulo, who's just doing programming full-time. So, who are we looking for? By now you should probably know the answer to this, but artists, first and foremost. It's what we need the most right now. Programmers would also be nice to have some more. Games are hard to make, and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, from the character gameplay, enemy behavior, the level generation, which just for itself it's quite the beast to tackle. The item system, because we have passive items and those have to interact with the rest of the systems, and who knows how that problem will be solved. And then there's a lot of smaller stuff like interacting with the environment and UI, code UI, a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and only 3 people to do it, so if any programmers want to join us, you are very much welcome to. In terms of writers, I'd like to have at least one more writer, just to not be just me writing. I don't want to make the story very my thing. I'd like to have it go through someone else too. But there's such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen, so maybe one more writer, maybe 2 at the most, but no more than that. And that concludes our pitch. I hope we have sparked some interest in our project, and I want to thank you all for listening. Alright, so that was our pitch. We'll be doing posts somewhere today. So if you're interested, either contact me or react to that post when we make it. And also, if anyone has any questions, I can answer them now.
Thank you very much for you guys' presentation. Sadly, you couldn't all be here, but the video quality was great. I don't believe there's any questions on YouTube either. So yeah, people, go react to the post and go talk to Duke about this project if you're interested. So for the last moment of today, we have another small presentation to share. So whenever you're ready, Gonçalo.
So, hi everyone, I'm just going to show you a little short video about our project Echo. So let me just share the screen. Okay, I think everything is working.
Hi there, I'm Nuno, and I'll be showing you the game we're working on. The project is currently named the Ecosystem Game, though the name is not fun. It's designed for both strategy game lovers and casual players who enjoy a more lax experience, watching ecosystems and seeing the simulation develop. In the game, you are given a random ecosystem with plants and animals, and your goal is to keep it balanced when things go wrong. The way you interact with the ecosystem is unique. Instead of controlling individual creatures, you play cards that influence the evolution of species. Cards can tweak a species' traits like speed, ferocity, or hunting abilities. Some cards even grant exotic abilities like photosynthesis or being poisonous. Keep an eye on the ecosystem for imbalances and plan your strategy accordingly. There are also random events, like meteors, mutations, or plagues that shake things up and keep you on your toes. We can describe the gameplay loop in a few steps. Step 1 is to observe the current ecosystem. See which creatures are hunting which, and gain a sense of how the ecosystem works. Step 2 is to react. If you think there's something wrong, like one species going extinct, or another reproducing too rapidly, you need to react. Step 3 is to strategize. Imagine you have a species that's being hunted to extinction. You have to look at what cards you have available to you. Maybe you can make it faster, so that it has a chance to evade predators. or make it stronger so that it has a fighting chance. But maybe you don't have either of those cards. There's still possible strategies, like making the hunting species slower so that it doesn't have as much success hunting. It all depends on what you have in hand. The final step is to repeat. Once you've executed your strategy, you will need to observe again. Sometimes your action doesn't have enough of an impact, and that species is still going extinct. Other times, your action was too exaggerated, and you have the opposite problem. Your puny species that almost went extinct is now the terror of the land. As a player, you will be in this loop continuously until either the ecosystem collapses completely, or you survive the required length of time. The main focus of the game is in 2D art, particularly the animals. You'll notice each animal is not a single sprite, but many. This is a system we've built that allows us to swap only parts of an animal in order to mutate each animal slightly, but to keep its general aesthetic. This system also allows us to create an enormous amount of different animals from a small sample of sprites, as well as animate these with no additional art assets. We're in need of artists to draw more animal parts, so if you're interested in this type of art, definitely consider joining. The game is mostly 2D, but it is set in a 3D world, the laboratory of an alien species that's conducting these experiments. We'll need 3D artists to design simple props to bring this part of the game to life. This ambitious project welcomes people from all fields. For programmers, we're almost done with the core gameplay loop, and will soon add more content. For 2D artists, we need more animal and plant sprites that use our procedural generation approach. 3D artists are needed for creating non-gameplay props to enhance the environment. I'd also like to share my philosophy as a team leader. Everyone is welcome to share their ideas and comment on the current direction, even if you don't have time to participate but would like to chat about the game. I'd be more than happy to. I also understand that this project is not anyone's first priority. We all have other things that come before, such as college or a job or both. If you're afraid to join because you're lacking time, talk to me and we'll work something out.
I think Nuno has something to say, so he's our project leader. So go ahead, Nuno.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to say a few words. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Gonçalo, for making this video. It's outside your normal responsibilities, and I think it turned out great. So about the project itself, I can answer a few questions now if there are any. But most importantly, I want to say that I'll be on the server for most of the afternoon. I'll be working, but if anyone wants to join and talk about the project, feel free to appear. Yeah, we're looking for people. The project is ambitious, so we're looking for anyone who wants to join. We'll have tasks no matter your area. And that's about it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Again, this video was amazing. Congratulations, Gonçalo. And well, this concludes our session, our April monthly session. So again, if you have any interest in any of the projects that were presented, please contact Andre, Diogo, or Nuno, respectively. And well, we hope you enjoyed the session, and we hope you will join one of our projects or create one of your own with the new game jams that are presented. So thank you very much and have a nice month.